Hello, everyone. We're back again with another good piece of news.
Hey, folks.
Jan's more excited for this card than I am.
Oh, yeah, I'm very excited.
I think it's just new player energy here. But we did recognize some things that we would have missed if we hadn't been talking about this for the last half hour. So, and people would have told us about it in detail.
Oh, yeah. Because it's kind of obvious
Yeah.
once you realize it,
Yeah.
or once you even look at it. But, well, I have always the excuse I don't play anything 3v5. Steve doesn't. He certainly does not.
uh Well, with that, let's crack on with it. I know that you guys don't like having to wait. I enjoy making you all wait, but that's not really fair to everybody watching. So here we go. Who's gonna start? Hello, music. Salubri spoiler 2. And it's not a bad one. As far as spoilers go, we've had worse. But I personally don't think that it's as good as some of them that we have had.
It's the best one we got after a Feast of Soul Secret, especially for Salubri. But before we begin, we have planned to give you a short review of the card, then go on and review the pack, and later discuss a little bit of deck building options we got now for Salubri.
Yeah. So good rundown. Thank you for the reminder there. Without further ado, let's start the countdown again. Here is our card. 3, 2, 1. Happy card day! Clip it quick and put it in the Discord. That way you can get off the stream and stop watching us chat about how bad / good this card is.
Honestly, but he would be very disappointed if any would leave now.
But this card, as we discovered, is actually a sort of functional reprint. And I'm going to say functional reprint of Armor of Kane's Fury because it is, in a little way, better than Armor of Kane's Fury. So, in the bad side, it's only usable before range is determined during the first round. Yuck. It costs 1 blood. Yuck.
No, go ahead.
But it does prevent 1 damage each round at inferior, and at superior it prevents 2 damage each round. And it also makes you sort of kind of immune to frenzy cards here. We're not going to use the word immune because immune is it's too much like a keyword. There are no keywords in VTES except for frenzy.
No, we have a lot of keywords. But there's one difference compared to Armor of Kane's Fury, which is relevant in my opinion. Armor of Kane's Fury is only 4 strikes, and Tranquility Shield is preventable any kind of damage. So you can prevent carrion crows, you can prevent murder of crows. You're way more versatile there.
Yeah, and if you want to be really insane, this doesn't say you could only play 1 of these during the first round of combat. So you can stack these just like you could Armor of Kane's Fury before. But I want to really hone in on one thing that I have a huge problem with here, and that I feel like is a pretty obvious and glaring huge problem. Before range is determined during the first round, like that is a huge impairment. Like, I don't think that trade-off is quite the valid exchange that some people think it is for a card that is already inherently Fortitude, to be able to have this card when combat begins, get it played out there with the right timing before that. Like, it's such a small window of timing for a clan that seems like they're really going to be operating on a multi-round structure because they're not exactly getting multiple strikes per round.
Yeah, they had to fill in the prevent one damage text space, which got free when they removed Outferior. Um, like, I'm not happy that it's only during first round as well. But I am more than happy that Salubri got this card at all. Because for me, when I was playing Salubri recently, it was so often um, that I got stuck on prevent cards. And because either competence or something else happened
Hmm.
during the other steps of combat, so I couldn't play it anyway.
Yeah.
And this I can get out of my hand. Just get rid of it.
Yeah, I think you make
Wait
a good
for
point there,
whatever
but
comes up.
you're paying a blood cost to basically cycle this card in that situation. And it's hard for me when I look at a card like, for example, Wall of Filth, that sure, there's still that same limitation that's a little hard to cycle because you have to play it pre-combat, but or before combat, before range is determined, but it is a card that doesn't cost anything to hang on to after that combat happens. Now, I will say that Wall of Filth and its limitation of only having one attached has been a negative problem as well, getting stuck in my hand, that this doesn't necessarily have to fix. But again, that first round, it's really hard to argue that that first round is some sort of special sauce, unless I feel like we see frenzy cards become more relevant than just the three real frenzy cards that this is going to affect.
Yeah, but the frenzy is not what's convincing me either. But still, being able to get stuff moving to draw into either Angel's Gift or something else you might want to have is worth a lot to
Yeah.
me.
I don't deny you that. I think that there's a good argument here. I think this card is still in the realm of playable. I don't think they've produced a card that's basically just filler, just the
And
kind of thing you put your reprints on.
it's true that it's only for the. Sorry, folks, I'm a bit sick today, so word can be hard to find in foreign languages. But I do think Salubri have a lot of ways to recoup blood as well. So
Yes.
um, take restoration, take what's it called?
Take Feast of Soul
Um,
Secrets. They have
no, Touch of
or
Valerian.
you also got Touch of Valerian that as well. Yep. So yeah, so
So
I think you have a solid argument here. I'm still gonna say I think this card could have had a little bit more on it. I think we talked about this before, and at some point you and I really need to have the big conversation about like, what is one blood actually worth versus like what is two blood worth, and how do we bridge that
yeah,
range in between?
we often had a discussion that a point 0.5 um, cost should be like it's not possible, but it would be reasonable for
Yeah.
something.
What
Like
things are equal to
0.5.
0.5? Is locking a
Yeah.
card a 0.5, or is that more like a 1.5? Is not being able to discard a 0.5? Is there some kind of negative you apply?
Yeah, we can have that, and
Yeah.
I'll get you to confide into my opinion.
We'll just have to find the time the way things are right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's dig into though the meat and potatoes what we got for the Salubri then. So obviously we got Tranquility Shield. It's still a decent card. I think it will still see play. We also got
Oh,
a
yeah,
great
absolutely.
rush card in Hunting the Beast. Somebody actually comments real quick. This card should also prevent damage done by outside of the hourglass. Um, that's a little bit more interesting in a timing and card and number of other perspective. Um,
Yeah, let's make that shall not go away.
yeah, let's
I
just do
do
that.
like this.
Let's make that card disappear because it's a nightmare for ruling. But getting back to it, Hunting the Beast. So Hunting the Beast is an already great card. It's going to give the rushes that Salubri didn't have with an extra ability and its stealth. We know this card's good. This card is going to have a big impact on the rush strategy. We've seen this before. We talked about Angel's Gift.
Yeah.
This card's going to give you a lot of the ability to use weapons in an effective manner. Any other comments on Angel's Gift or the other card? I know I just kind of ran
No,
over
we
them.
have been over this.
Yeah. Righteous Blade as well. You got your nice beady stick that gives you a press. I still wish it would have gotten a maneuver
And
as well.
yeah, but I think getting a press after this you chose a strike is quite good because Salubri want to stay in combat
Yep.
and want to have various options for that.
Yeah. Anticipation also incredibly good. Reprinting Death Seeker and a card that also gets you a strike is an optional strike that exists is really good. Granted, this does mean you have to have Spear Auspex, but that's not really a downside in some ways.
Yeah. However, for library cards, which have been reprinted in this new blood, and I have not been into V5, which is Dawn Operation. And I think Dawn Operation reprint is huge also because
Hold on, my
it
slide
does.
just failed out on me. It's not jumping to the slide. It's not supposed to.
No worries.
Thank you.
And Dawn Operation just like eases fits quite good into the Salubri strategy and makes it also relevant to be able to prevent as much as you can as early as you can.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be hit by outside of the hourglass egg damage.
Yeah. I think and I think that's that. I think where you're going. Keep going. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, just scaring people off and getting stuff through is quite significant. Having more tools for that is quite significant.
Yeah. It's a neat thing to be able to go, okay, Dawn Operation, have somebody have to think like, and you're not going to take any of that ag damage once you get into combat because of Tranquility Shield as well. I think these two cards together add kind of a mechanism you might use on a more stable basis. But I think that Dawn Operation goes a little antithetical to some of what the combat version, what this new blood construct wants to do. Right, looking at the deck as they provide it. Right, you've got the two new vampires plus Abaddon, plus Malachi, Sakar, and Apikun. Right, all these very good vampires. But when you look at the rest of the deck, it's basically a combat deck. It's a very rush with some bleed options available. The Dawn Operation is kind of in a different direction, right? It's hoping that you use that as a way to, I guess, make people not want to block the bleed option that you're trying to throw on there.
Yeah.
But it's only one of them. It's not really a surprise. Like, people are just kind of going to expect it to come out. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you can add stealth, you can add something else.
Yeah, I don't know. This feels, it feels kind of like, I don't get me wrong, I'm super happy that Dawn Operation is being printed into V5. I think I have wanted this card for a while, and there's a few different decks that I plan to play around with it in V5. But I just don't know that this new blood starter was the place that it makes the most sense. I feel like it would have been better in the original New Blood or in the original Salubri release as opposed to the New Blood Salubri release. But that's, I feel like, me being pedantic and just nitpicking BCP about like, I wish you would have done it my way instead of somebody else's.
Everybody knows you are just being nitpicky because Salubri just got delayed until
they shouldn't have been this long. This does make them a much more like playable clan for V5. We got a Salubri clan that just felt like, what am I supposed to do with this? I can't properly bleed with good stealth. I can't properly like get into combat and maintain survivability. What is this Auspex even doing for me right now? Because everything cancels a block right now, which also I'm really annoyed by. It needs to stop. Stop putting cards that say cancel a block without having the ability to cancel a block if you're going to do that. But then we get into Magic the Gathering territory, and please, for the love of God, I don't want to be counterspelling.
No. Stop right there. Anyhow, I think there's another nice library card, which I want to talk about in a bit. But I think the next Vampire.
Yeah.
No,
So
he's our second to next vampire.
so we had Brachiel having a minion with a rush with animalism. Oh, mwah. Good job,
Just
BCP.
great.
Yeah.
And now she had been spoiled by us already last week, and having this +1 stealth, I think, is key. And we've been talking about getting stuff through
Mm-hmm.
and vast wealth. You said it yourself.
Yeah.
Might be huge for V5. Why?
Yeah. So vast wealth is something that to me is being wildly, wildly missed. Vast wealth in V5 is the kind of card that a lot of clans need without concealed weapon, right? So a lot of people keep saying we need a concealed weapon, we need a way for you to sneak weapons in, we need blah 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 blah. Concealed weapon is I have this argument a lot, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong on this, and I feel like nobody is really right or wrong on this, but concealed weapon is a bad card in a lot of ways because it for the decks that benefit from it and can benefit from it because of the way they can play cards, they get too much value from it. And from the decks that can't, it ends up being a trap. You end up thinking like, I can use this to play various weapons. And then the timing can't work out because you can't flow the cards. So it seems like right now BCP's idea is let's fix the concealed let's fix the concealed weapon problem. And we're gonna do that by not doing concealed weapon. And then I'm sure like next set they're gonna print concealed weapon into something just like they did when Eagle Sight wasn't coming back. But vast wealth is in the V5 format a great way for things like Toreador or Ventru to get to a weapon that they need to kind of push things through, and to use action economy as a way to like get themselves to it in a way that other clans can't, to really put on that pressure. I genuinely think that vast wealth has been one of those interesting cards that I don't think gets enough play. It is non-unique. It only affects you as a card. It is at +1 stealth and grabs your weapon. If you have fortitude, this card is basically a search your library for the weapon that you want and put it onto a minion. And it's not just a weapon, it's an equipment. It's if you really want to go crazy, right? Maybe you don't want the randomness of having to find all these things, but it gets you what you want. And in V5, in a format where things are both faster and slower, certain things are less action worthy in V5 because everything else is happening at a better rate.
However, you can't get what you want.
You can if you make your deck only those options.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true.
You end up with a machine that works better this way. The Toreador can get a gun that they want to get, right? Especially the current V5 Toreador will use their fortitude and eventually force march, because if I don't get force march, I'm going to riot, to unlock and have their equipment and then do a bleed or do a political action and force the table to be worried about a clan that's going to shoot them 3 times if they happen to get in the way. I think this card is perfect right now for V5. I think we'll see. I am excited to see what this card does for some of the underrepresented clans in V5.
I mean, in my opinion, it's good that you can search for stuff. Like Shakar also fits into that spot.
Yeah. That is if you want to have multiple different pieces of equipment and you don't want to run into something. Let's say, for example, you plan to run the big fiery sword that the Salubri have. You don't want to run into a second
Sword
copy.
Of the Archangel.
Thank you. I thought it was Archangel. I just would want to be wrong, because somebody would have corrected me in the comments, and I feel worse when the comments correct me than when you correct me. But Sakar can go grab Big Fiery Sword because you don't want to vast wealth into second Big Fiery Sword and have just lost in action, essentially. We also are getting in this, though, which I think is pretty interesting, and I'm really, really praying for some card modification, but I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm hoping. Forced Vigilance is getting a reprint into V5. And I think it's almost good. Almost. Please remove the cost. Give it any drawback. Please remove the cost. One is just a little too much. Because it only works on a D action. You can either I'll give you this, okay? Remove the cost, keep the cost, take away that D action part. Take away the D action part. I'll take that. That would make it a good card. I would play that card if it didn't have one of those two things. But as it stands right now, like only usable during a D action has that same problem you have, not as significant, but that same problem you have is you get using Rat's Warding or Cat's Guidance. Part of why we never see that is it's only usable on a bleed. And not every deck is going to bleed you, and not all the time are you going to be able to cycle this card from your hand. So you're like, cool, I have an unlocked card, but what am I going to do with it?
But seeing Forced Vigilance, I do think there will be some kind of errata because of just rewording. Because I don't think immediately after he or she blocks will stay as timing window because after you have after combat, which is you'll get probably usable by locked minion after combat.
Yeah, that will most likely be the case. The timing will very likely change unless they want to break their own rule problem that I saw you guys discussing in the rulebook suggestions thread a long while back about how technically untapped minions combat something weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, good to see this card getting a reprint. Hoping it gets some better than just natural language changes.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
However, I'm not sure if I like tension in the ranks in this pack.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I feel like Fame should probably have been the reprinted card here as opposed to Tension.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're not going to be doing a big like strategy of dunking a lot of vampires here. It's going to take you work to dunk a vampire with this deck. And I'm going to say something that's kind of a dirty word here, by the way, for a lot of players that are presently playing Vitesse. But I am excited for this for 2P. Like, I think for 2-player, this is a lot of good stuff that's going to make it really fun to play, even more fun to play Salubri in 2-player.
If it makes it into 2P.
A lot of the stuff will. I don't think Dawn Operation's going to, unfortunately. But I think the rest of it will. Like, I don't see why we can't get at the very least the stick or their sword, the base level sword. Yeah. We'll hopefully get the card that is the concealed weapon equivalent, right? I don't see why we don't get that. But I guess there's an argument for some of the rest of the cards not making it. But I feel like in general, a lot of these cards go very well into it, except maybe also telepathic tracking. But
yeah, that won't happen in 2P.
Yeah.
But the other odd reprint, okay, it fits thematically, but not really into the deck in my opinion, is Golconda.
Yeah. So Golconda is an interesting card, and to my understanding, actually, this is already in V5.
It was in it's in V5. It was in Shadows of Berlinda, if I recall correctly.
That's why I'm not remembering. But like this is one of those cards that I feel like is more of a bleed style card because you can use this to force a player to make a decision. Do you want to stay in this game or do you want to go down to such a low pool that will probably kill you? It makes a lot less sense in a deck that is very combat oriented and you're just kind of making the game longer for you by killing them. You almost feel like you're going to use this on yourself. It just, I don't know, it doesn't stick to it. Maybe there's some players out there that would prefer to play a Golconda in their combat deck that might want to speak something to this, but I just don't think that fits either. I agree with you there. Guardian Angel makes sense, though, as a card to put in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, Golconda feels off in the Masters. I think everything else kind of fits here pretty well, though. Like, in general, this is a well-structured New Blood deck. With the, if all we're talking about is kind of pedantic things about it that could have been better different cards, like Golconda could have been another copy of Guardian Angel, or Tension in the Ranks should have been Fame. I think they maybe just didn't want to print another copy of Fame and wanted to make it easier for people to get Tension. I don't like when that math has to come into play in a deck.
But it's not a bad card.
Yeah.
But I think Fame would have been the more obvious choice.
Yeah. But it's still a great out of the box New Blood deck. And if you were using the New Blood decks as as demo material, this feels the most consistently like I could open up this New Blood deck and I don't have to give a lot of direction to the player. As long as the player understood the game, they can probably play this deck pretty smoothly.
And I do think, coming to the part where we wanted to discuss deck building options, that it offers a good add-on for the V5 base pack.
Yeah. At this point now, I feel like you could play. So I feel like the only negative I would have here is I feel like you, when buying this, the Salubri, you're going to need to buy like 2 base, 2 New Bloods to get the Crypt the proper way you want it to, and to have some of the like cards that are only 1Z, 2Z out of them. But you're still in, at that point, you get 3, basically 2.5 Salubri decks out of it, I think.
Yeah, but I mean that's the case for most New Bloods.
Yeah.
But just using the cards which are opened up by it, I think you have 2 or maybe 3 versions which you or routes which you could go.
Yeah.
Just going Feast of the Soul Secret, maybe some Govern Bleed, added with Dawn Operation, and hoping you don't get blocked too often, and prevent if you can. Or go the Wallish side. Maybe I tried experimenting with Smiling Jack for a bit, but not sure if he's making the final cut because he's quite pricey for Salubri.
And he also tends to get a lot of all over the table hate. It seems weird to try to figure out, like I've always wanted to try to find a way to make it so when you're playing Smiling Jack, you don't make your cross table allies suddenly turn into more minions that you need to block from destroying your Smiling Jack. That math always seems weird. You need the table to kind of sit quite right to not eventually have somebody go, look, I now have to take out your Jack. I don't know if you're trying to kill me or your prey, but it looks like both at this point. So I genuinely want to go back to something that I mentioned earlier though, which is that I do feel like the Salubri put us in a sort of weird position in terms, or I'm sorry, not Salubri. The block cancel puts us in kind of a weird position for wall strategies. I think that wall, I get the direction that BCP wants to see, right? We want to see a game that doesn't continuously go to timeouts. So you give us this kind of like wall strategy. If you have enough minions, you can kind of block, but we just get locked into like, well, I think there's a good wall deck in here. I don't think that walling is a good enough strategy. It's a strategy with a blend of something else. And I think the Salubri might have the pieces to do wall with just a little bit of targeted rush. So the opponent feels that pressure that leads them to kind of make a less valuable play or not have as many good play options open to them. And from that, you can basically split the starter and the New Bloods in half and make the 2 pieces of that deck that you would need. So we don't have any deck lists for you right now. Both of us have had a pretty rough week. But
as you can hear, I'm just not as not sick today.
Jan is trying his best not to follow the path of death and taxes at this point.
Yeah, no, we don't make Hecate reviews.
But we did. That was last set.
Of course we did.
But yeah, so some updates that I want to just give to everybody before we kind of wrap things up, because I feel like I don't want Jan to die on me midway through our discussion. But so I know my video content has kind of gone way further down than usual, except for gameplay stuff. I do have stuff that we're trying to work on in the pipeline I have started a brand new job recently, and that has basically eaten a lot of my time to do things. And I'm still trying to figure out the math behind how to do things. So I look forward to smaller bites of content coming. I'm trying to work out the timing, but the idea is maybe a few more deck tech stuff. I have a few chats that I want to have that are like short, simple things about like V-tests that I'd like to see be different, but don't necessitate an entire long form video that Jan and I would talk about, but could lead to a longer form video that Jan and I talk about. When he's like, "I think you're wrong on that one video you did." Um,
Yeah, but anyway, last but not least, there is one new content which we have, which I want you just to give a nod to, which is another of the V5 games with BCP, and especially the discussion afterwards.
yeah,
Because if I remember correctly, that's the one where Hines and I talked about the EC
yes,
V5 format qualifications.
yes. I think a lot of you are really missing out on a really good set of conversations because I think you're assuming it's just going to be us hyping up V5 and talking about how good our games were. It is not that. Basically, every one of those, part of why I gave them all the Enduring the Struggle tag when you look at the playlists and when you look at the actual screen, is it is basically an entirely separate podcast episode where we get to passively interview BCP. There have been so many good questions answered, and I've wondered for a while, like, why is it when I'm having a discussion in the Discord, no one seems to know that BCP had already confirmed that they're not going to do that? And then you brought it up last week where you're like, oh, nobody's really like watching that, are they? And I went back and looked at the views and I'm like, no, nobody is consuming this content that is basically an interview where they're telling me like information.
It says, like, it reads after after game discussions, but honestly it's a bit of after game discussion, and most of them it goes into
why did this card end up this way? Why are we doing? Yeah.
We had everybody except Henrik. Henrik, come to us, play with us.
Or at least chat with us. Come on, give us something. We really appreciate everything you're doing, and we want to be able to talk about it.
Like everyone else, like Vincent was talking about puddings and stuff. So
Hines has some sort of big secret card, by the way, apparently coming out on this set that's going to be really great. Yeah. It has something meaningful, but he wouldn't tell us anything about it, but he also wouldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah, so this is one thing. He said it's gonna be obvious when people see it. My guess is that this is gonna be some kind of what's the name who shouldn't be remembered from Switzerland?
I was gonna let's put cards under the table, under the table.
Yeah, maybe something like this. Or him getting beaten up. I don't know yet.
That might be a little too far. But yeah, so I want to thank you guys for sticking with us. Go back, please check those out. I think you'll really find a lot of good information, good conversations. It really is kind of worth the time. I'm not very good at pushing my own content. I'm not running around here begging you guys for a Patreon. I don't even ask you guys to subscribe to this channel.
Follow, like, and subscribe.
Ouch, that hurts. I've been trying so hard to not be that kind of person.
Yeah, this is fine. Anyway.
Yet at a later point, one of my videos is going to be why you're using YouTube wrong. I'm going to get that video out, and I'm going to talk about why YouTube continues to make it worse. But that's for another day. Good night, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll see you again next time.
Hope you enjoyed.